Alright everyone, you know how this works. It's that time of the year again. It's nearing the end of December, and yes, it's time for my top 10 Dragon Ball figures of 2022, including of course SH Figure Arts, a surprise return from Figure Standard, and all of our favorite third-party companies. Although I don't think any third-party company actually made it onto this list this year, but I guess you'll just have to wait and see, but you probably already know that from my thumbnail. Anyway, so if you are new to the channel, this is just a rundown on 10 figures that I enjoyed most in 2022 based on my personal criteria of what I think makes a figure top 10 worthy. And for everyone else who's been around for a while now, just let me say thank you to everybody for sticking around for however many years I've been doing this and for all your continued support this year. I can't thank you enough. You guys really are the best. So enough with my rambling, let's get on to the top 10 Dragon Ball figures of 2022. Alright, so let's start off with the two figures, which respectively take up my number 9 and number 10 spots. But I guess, you can't really have one without the other. Although I will say Zarbon just ever so slightly edges out Dodoria. I love the Namek Frieza arc, and these two colorful characters were always high on my list of most wanted figures from that period. The figures themselves are true to form and look exactly how I'd picture them from the anime. The head sculpts and expressions they come with are directly ripped from the source material and translated extremely well to figure form. We get what we need for these two in terms of accessories, and articulation is what you would expect. But what I love most about these two releases is how they complement each other, and when you throw First Form Frieza in there, it's like I'm reliving all those scenes I loved from the anime. Having these three figures together is what it's really all about, and I hope to see Tamashii give us even more side characters in the future. So you've heard me talk highly about this one before, and for good reason. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself here, but this is a perfect example of what Tamashii can do with a bit of retooling to give us a, I guess, no frills or your essentials release at a very reasonable price point. The best thing about this figure is that everything is completely new. Yep, from head to toe, Superhero Piccolo borrows the basic structure from Piccolo 2.0, resculpts everything, giving us what is essentially a brand new figure, and I absolutely love that, and it goes to show that Tamashii can go the extra mile when they want to, which is why I don't understand why they can't do that with Goku and Vegeta as well. Anyway, Piccolo doesn't come with his cape or hat, but this is still a very fun and very poseable figure. And if you have Piccolo 2.0, you can definitely mix and match the accessories. For 30 bucks, this is a phenomenal release. So besides the height or the lack of, and I guess the kind of two-dimensional looking feet, which is actually kind of a big deal, this is a really great release. I honestly really like the figure. And trust me, I'm not trying to convince myself here, I really do like it. I think we've all been waiting for Tamashii to give us the other two forms of Cell, and now that we have 2 out of the 3, it's only a matter of time till we complete the trio. Imperfect Cell is beautifully sculpted, and despite its unique design, still retains a lot of movement, which helps since you'd want your cell to be as articulated as possible, trying to copy all those Z-Fighter techniques. Accessories are aplenty, including the absorbing tail attachment, which is a lot of fun, though Tamashii did miss the special beam cannon hand, which I thought would have made this release complete. Anyway, I'm very happy that Tamashii are what it seems like moving on to the Cell Saga. We've got Androids 19 and 20, I think, coming pretty soon, and Imperfect Cell has definitely given me a taste for more. Bring on Semi-Imperfect Cell, come on Tamashii, 2023. Figure Rise are back, baby, and what a way to make a mark with an all-new updated Goku kit that doesn't sound very exciting on paper, but trust me, this kit slash figure is leaps and bounds better in almost every aspect than its predecessor. I feel because this is a model kit, a lot of collectors probably slept on this one, but if you haven't given Figure Rise a shot before, I highly recommend picking this one up as your first. It's not a Figure Arts, but it definitely gives Tamashii a run for its money with some very 3D gaming style aesthetics, import action figure engineering, decent accessories with some really good looking faceplates, and articulation that will rival your base form Figure Arts gi body. The kit, when fully built, feels a lot more solid than the previous version. Not as solid as a normal action figure, but it definitely has some heft to it. If this kit was 1/12 scale, which it isn't unfortunately, it's more like 7 inches, I think I would have had this as my stand-in base form Goku. Seriously guys, don't let the fact that this being a model kit scare you off from experiencing what I think is one of the best base form Goku figures out there. So I wasn't sure whether or not to include this figure on my list, as technically it isn't necessarily a new figure. But you know what? I love it. It's new to me, checks all the boxes, and I'm so ecstatic to finally have this figure in hand. It's one that has always managed to evade me, and you can kind of call it a mini grail for me, but Android 16 is everything that it lived up to be and more. And now with this updated and much preferred, for me personally, paint job. But a couple of things that just hold it back for me, the exclusivity being one, and the other being the size or the slight lack of. I know this is an older figure, so there really isn't much that can be done here, but I think if 16 was just a tad bigger, this figure would have been perfect, even with the dated body and articulation, which still feels very relevant when compared to some of the newer releases. Again, I'm in love with this figure and just really happy to finally have it in my collection. Shout out to the LA Explorer and Animated Heroes once again for making it possible. I think this one would have been a little bit higher on my list if Tamashii gave us the faceplates they showed us in the promos. Still, what we got wasn't bad, I just prefer the sharper, slightly more angular look of what Tamashii initially put out with the prototype. This was also the first taste of a fully geared 3.0 body, which I'm sure we'll see a lot more in the future, and I personally really like the upgrade. Everything from the thicker, more muscular silhouette to the much improved articulation in the shoulders and ankles. Couple that with some well-sculpted hands, and I think you've got yourself a really good base body for figures with this body type going forward. Love this version of Gohan. It's an almost perfect representation from animation to 6-inch figure form, and I'm really looking forward to Beast Gohan in 2023. So the next one is kind of a biased love-hate situation with me. On one hand, I love how amazing this figure looks. The hair sculpt, which is basically just a retool of the full power hair sculpt, is so simple yet so satisfying, and the faces, especially the faces, are just perfect. Everything I could ever hope for in a Super Saiyan 2 Goku figure. I just can't get enough of that smirk face. On the other hand, I hate the fact that this was an event exclusive. I hate that Super Saiyan 2, the coolest transformation in Dragon Ball history ever, wasn't made more widely available to collectors, and being on the older 2.0 body wasn't ideal either. Don't get me wrong, the 2.0 body is still a great base, but the ankles and the generic crappy looking hands really need to go. But I feel Tamashii gave us a lot of reasons to love this figure in terms of the figure itself, disregarding the distribution, which is why this has got to be one of my favorite Goku figures, dare I say favorite figures in the entire Dragon Ball line. If you want to use an older body and retool it, fine. I'm totally cool with it. Just do it right. And this, my friends, is how you do it. Vibrant, bright oranges and blues, just like how Goku appeared in the period he was portrayed in. Retooled head sculpt that looks new with some of the best faceplates in the entire line. Throw in a brand new aura effect with some of that Super Saiyan 2 blue lightning goodness. And just to add something a little extra, the slash across the chest he received from Yakon. Oh, and did I mention just how good the plastic quality is on this guy? I know number 3 might be a little bit high for a repaint retool, but as all of you know by now, Super Saiyan 2 is and always will be my favorite transformation for Goku. At number 2, Super Saiyan Vegeta came pretty close to taking the number 1 spot. In fact, this was my most anticipated figure of the year. There was just really one thing about this figure that let it slip away from the number 1 spot. To some, it may not even be an issue, but to others, and to me, myself, it's an aesthetic and engineering choice that I think could have been done better, which, if fixed, would have made this release perfect. I just can't get past the legs and how they connect to the crotch, because everything else is absolutely beautiful. From the super sharp sculpt work to the next level articulation, it's so much fun and so easy to pose thanks to the updated shoulders and ankles, and comes with pretty much everything you'd want in a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Maybe except the fusion hands, but Tamashii could easily give us those with an inevitable Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Don't get me wrong, the legs aren't enough to call this figure horrible. I mean, that's why this guy sits at number 2, but when we're talking top 10, the best of the best, I gotta count every detail, and when compared to the number 1 spot, it really was just this one small detail that let it down. Still, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta is one of the best, and probably to many collectors, the best Vegeta or figure arts release to date. But before we get to number 1, I want to give an honorable mention to this enormous beast, SH Figure Arts Porunga, and I know what some of you are thinking, that I'm crazy for not including this monster of a figure in my top 10 list, but hear me out before you all go and unsubscribe to my channel. Porunga is definitely worthy of a top 10 place on anyone's list. It's an amazing feat on its own for Tamashii to even release this figure to the general public. It's a humongous, extremely detailed, impressive display piece that not only articulates, but has lights and sounds as well. What more can you want in a figure, right? Well, for me, it's just that, a display piece. Yes, Porunga can move around and you can definitely pose his upper half, but that's really it. I find myself messing around with the arms a bit from time to time, but there really isn't much else you can do with this guy besides put him in your display, which he definitely stands out and has an incredible shelf presence, don't get me wrong. But for me personally, a big part of the criteria when making this list was the fun factor and how much I enjoy posing the figure, taking photos of the figure. It's definitely not the figure's problem at all, it's just the nature of the character, and while this is one of the most impressive pieces in my collection, it'll probably stay in its box until I get more space to actually display him. Still, I do love this moving work of art, but I just couldn't put him on my list. Krillin, Earth's strongest man and best figure of 2022. This is definitely Krillin's year, and simply put, this release is everything I am looking for in an SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball release. It kills it in every department, from being extremely faithful to the source material, updated 3.0 articulation that makes this figure one of the most posable and enjoyable figures in the line, and it comes packed with so many great accessories, from newly sculpted hands, expressive faceplates, and a really cool looking Destructo disc. Krillin even comes with some Senzu beans. This release just ticked all of my boxes and is a shining example of a perfect release. Everything that comes after Krillin this year was still pretty good, and we got some really impressive releases with Porunga and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, but they all just fell a little short of what, for me, was the best figure of 2022. Well done, Krillin. Alright guys, that's my top 10 Dragon Ball figures for 2022. I'd love to hear what your favorite figures for this year were, why you enjoyed them, and what you're looking forward to the most next year. I feel Tamashii keep trying to top the previous years with an even more impressive roster, but it does look like, and I know I say this every year, that 2023 is shaping up to be one heck of a year for figure arts. I can't wait for Turles and Second Form Frieza, but I think the new Future Trunks will probably be my Krillin 2.0 for 2023. Anyway, I will be back early next year with a couple of videos, number 1 being my SH Figure Arts Porunga video, which is taking a lot longer than I expected. That thing is huge. There are a lot of comparisons, but I promise I will have that video out early January. And also, I have a general top 10 figures of 2022, which I just want to sit down and talk about other figures from other lines that I really enjoyed. So I hope to see you all back for that one too. All right, everyone, that's it for 2022. Hope to see you back in 2023. Enjoy the holidays. Stay safe out there. Keep healthy, be good to your mom, and as always, Yoroshiku! Happy New Year, guys!